jump into is navigating between the code. This is one of the most important lectures, not in terms of complexity, but in terms of usefulness. What it essentially means is when you're looking at code and reading larger files, how you move around between files and how you move around between, let's say a function is getting called and you want to quickly jump from the use of the function to where it's defined and declared to where it's implemented, just switching back and forth. It's really important when debugging issues. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to check out is how to just open up any file. Did this before in an early lecture. Just Command P and you can see all the files currently you've got in the space, so you can switch between them, right? Control Tab will let you see all the current files in the editor and toggle between them. Now, most languages like C#, you go to definition by pressing F12, right? So you should check out your shortcuts. I don't have that set up. So if you go to my keyboard shortcuts, and I believe it should be go to, right. So from go to definition, I use command and the upper arrow key. And for go to implementation, command and down. It's usually F12 and command F12. So if I'm here and I use command up, I can go to the definition immediately, right? And since there's no implementation, I can see no implementation when I go command down or command F12 by default. So set your shortcuts to what you find comfortable with. You can even right click and do the same thing. Go to definition, go to implementation, peek definition. Peek definition allows you to peek the code of where the function is defined. In this case, it's a small file which I'm showing for simplicity, but in larger files this helps a lot, right? Yeah, so jumping between implementations and definitions is really important. Matching brackets is another important feature, right? So by standard, I think it's like command shift and then the backslash. But again, I don't use that. I use that more for commenting. So if you look at my keyboard shortcuts, I'm using shift command and B, right? So we're on this thing. Immediately when you select a bracket, the lower one gets highlighted. In larger files and functions, it might be that your code is so long that you have to scroll. So what you can use is command shift B in my case, because I've set it that way, or by default command shift backslash, and jump between the opening and closing of a bracket. It's helpful when you have issues like let's say brackets matching issues. Helps debug those, right? To see all the errors and warnings currently in place, use command shift M. You'll get a list of the errors and warnings. Again, useful shortcut, handy to have when you need to debug issues. So that's all I wanted to show you in navigation, but the most important thing is going to implementations and definitions, I think. And if you don't, you can either set the shortcuts or just use right click and go to definition, peek definition, and go to implementation when you're looking at a function, right? Three important features.